Tony, thanks for coming on. And if I we did it a little bit of technical difficulties, but if I may start with a quick introduction of how I found you and ran across your content, which was a very interesting experience. And I was just scrolling through TikTok like most adults do nowadays, and honestly, I didn't know what I'm seeing at the beginning. It was just, this cool chick making all kinds of weird dance movements, and I'm like, why do I have to keep watching this? It's so weird. It's drawing me in. And at first I didn't even like totally realize what you're talking about because I was so mesmerized by what's going on with your dance moves. I gotta say they're pretty swag. But then I watched it again. I was like, all right, yeah, she's talking about some serious stuff. And I kept scrolling through your work, and I realized that there's some level of genius in it. I don't know how much intended it is, and you'll probably you can speak on it. But it's what I found a little bit genius, in what you do is that we need to have conversations about difficult subjects, and nobody wants to do that anymore because it's uncomfortable. And actually one of your videos is about why we don't want to do it. It's because we get into these camps and we fight each other, and we take the lazy route to the moral high ground and don't really go into anything. But you make it in a way that doesn't encourage a conflict. It's, if anything, some of the subjects that you talk about, maybe I don't really agree with everything you say about it, but the beautiful thing is it encourages conversation and thought. It's thought inducing. It makes you want to watch more and be like, oh shit, yeah, that thing, we really need to do more of that, or think about a new subject in a new light. So whatever you do, it's working, and I think that we need more of it. I love it, and I just want to hear a little bit more from you. How the heck did you even decide to get on this series of videos the way you do them? And just generally, like, who are you? Where the heck did you come from?
Well, first of all, I want to say all genius is intentional. I am intentionally genius at all times. So
I set you up for that one. Cool.
Yeah, I'll take full credit for that.
Sure.
So I have been making a variety of videos for many, many years now. And I've always been trying to push the conversation, dive into people's consciousness, titillate their psyches in one way or another. And that has been a very long process over the years. I made many music videos about issues. I've done lots of sketch comedy. I do stand-up comedy. I had a blog for many years. So it's been a long journey of just constantly working out how I want to articulate like my own personal philosophies, and also what I think are ways to relate to people and not just people who agree with me. That feels flat in a certain sense. Although it's like really nice when someone's like, I agree with everything, A+, I love you. I'm like, thank you so much. Right. But I am interested in diving into the muddy waters of potential conflict with those that have a different worldview or a different point of view. I actually just had a pretty funny experience around that I can tell you about if you want to hear. But that's kind of been my goal and my ethos, is just how to connect with people and also to further the paradigm of who we are as like a human species, who we want to be, and how we are going to evolve into hopefully a eternal light beings that live with harmony with each other, the planet, with animals. Like, I want to be a part of that vibe. I had a fucking story. Yeah, I'm ready. All right, you ready for the story?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I recently made a video about how the military industrial complex. The US military is the most pollutant single entity in the world. It's like the number one cause for global warming when you're looking at one single institution. And the US military is basically exempt from a lot of climate studies because of the Kyoto Protocol. So it's not really public knowledge how much environmental destruction the military is. And I felt like that was an incredibly relevant and important piece of information. And so I made a video about it. And as you mentioned, I make these videos where I'm dancing. Okay, so just to qualify the dancing videos. Okay, so like I understand they're absurd. You know, I'm in on the joke, but I am a dancer. I've been dancing for many years, and there was something funny to me about improving, like interpretive dancing my emotions while talking about certain subject, because interpretive dance just is fundamentally funny. So I wanted to just interpretive dance my feelings about the military as one tends to do, like NBD, no big deal.
Right.
So I made this video, and I was like wearing a prairie dress, and you know, I was just trying an aesthetic, partly to be funny. You want attention, right? You put yourself on the internet for attention. And I am not really at that stage of life where I'm looking to sexualize myself for attention. I'm looking for attention in a different way. I'm looking for cerebral attention and heart attention. I'm not looking for boners. Right. So I was wearing a prairie dress, and I made this video, and I didn't think too much of it. And then a friend of mine messaged me and was like, "You're on this Twitter account called Libs of TikTok." Okay. And I was like, that doesn't sound good. But okay, you know, I didn't really think too much of it. And I went to Twitter, and, you know, obviously Libs of TikTok is trolling people who they deem liberal. And I was just, the only comment I made on their post of mine was, "I'm an anarchist, thank you very much." Because I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I do not want to sit in any political party in that way. And that's a different conversation we could have or not have. But
right.
So that was all I said. And I noticed that there had been at that point like 1 million views on the video. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. And I was looking at the comments, and some of them were obviously like, "What is wrong with her?" or like cringe, or, you know, there was a variety of reactions. Sure. But then some people were like, "Oh, this is interesting," or "I get it," or, you know, there is a lot of censorship that happens on TikTok, I'm sure that you know. And so you do kind of avoid the algorithm if you do things like what I'm doing. You know, I'm not necessarily like poking the censorship demons if I'm dancing around in a field like a prairie girl.
Sure. That's actually a good way to get around it.
Right. And so eventually, like, then the video was at 2 million, and then the video was at 3 million. And I was like, oh, this is like, I noticed that was a popular video for Libs of TikTok as well.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to reach out to the admin of Libs and TikTok and just be like, what's up? Because however funny they thought it was to make fun of me by posting my video was exactly how funny I thought it was that their audience was like hate watching my video. Like, I thought it was really funny too. And I wanted to connect to that person on a human level. So I just wrote them a message, and I was like, hey, that video you posted of mine is getting a lot of attention. And like the hands emoji, like, you know, when your hands are like out and there's like I think they're prayer hands. Maybe some people think they're touchdown hands.
Hey, we're not going to get into that debate.
I surrender in peace. Like, that was my vibe.
Right.
And then Libs of TikTok just blocked me.
Oh, nice.
They just cock blocked me, you know, or they clam slammed me.
The opposite of cock blocked you.
Yeah, they clam slammed me. They puss plugged me.
Well,
And
I'm
I
not
thought that was
surprised.
really interesting that they didn't want to I did not say anything confrontational. I wasn't even going to say anything confrontational. I actually thought of us as like interesting allies.
Right.
And it was kind of a bummer that they just didn't want to engage with me. So, long story even longer, I'm almost done. Of course, I then messaged their Instagram because I'm like, okay, block me on fucking Twitter. Fine, I'll
I'll see
find
you
you
on
on
the other end.
Instagram.
Right.
And then the guy who I'm assuming it's a man, he was like, oh, that's another person who runs the Twitter. And I was like, is it?
Is it though?
Is it another person? But I was like, well, ask them why they blocked me. And then, of course, he never got back to me. But I do
Yeah.
think that's an interesting example of, it's like I would be the one called a snowflake, even though I don't think of myself as a snowflake. But it's like,
Right.
that's a very snowflakey move to not want to talk to me.
Right. And I love the story really because it brings me to this a comment of about a bit that comedian made. You know Dan Commons? His podcast is Time Suck.
Oh, yeah. Great. Great
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah. Dan Commons he's hilarious, and Time Suck is great. But the reason I bringing him up is because he had this bit that he released like a few seconds of where he's on stage and he's making fun of people who didn't get the vaccine and how they shouldn't get a bed at the hospital, blah blah blah. And of course, he's a comedian, so he made it hilarious. And I don't have a stance on that specific subject that I want to talk about, and it's not my intention. The point is that through the comment section, I kind of browsed through to see how people react to that.
Mm-hmm.
And one guy said something interesting. He said, this is something I don't agree with you on, but I find it extremely hilarious. And then took the time to reply to him and say, thank you. We need more of you. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do. It's not about my war is going to be the final war where I'm encouraging, World War III. All I'm saying is funny shit and let's make something out of it. You don't have to take it for, any final word or law. It's just my bullshit, stream of consciousness, and it turns into comedy because that's who I am. So, you don't have to hate me for it, or it's not necessarily a message I'm trying to change the world with, and that's what I really liked about it. And it kind of stuck with me because this is it. What you're doing, it's not about, see, I'm most of the stuff you talk about actually is a calling for, even for myself to, I shouldn't say even, I'm not that smart. It's a calling for me to wake up and kind of look into stuff a little bit more deeply because, we do take the lazy route just because we're human.
Yeah.
But the point is, even if something you say on a very surface, shallow level is something I disagree with per se, I find that the way you deliver the content and the food for thought, entertaining and disarming, which is everything we need today, because everybody can go out there and find a big moral high ground, staging ground and just go and have a blast. That's what libs are doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why they don't want to talk to you, because what they're doing is easy. They prey on what seems to fall right into the category of checking all the boxes of trolling people in a certain category, and that's not a real fight. It's not really moving anything forward. All it is getting traffic, and they're doing it for multiple reasons, but I'm assuming one of the main reasons is just to add revenue. It's just moving people around and controlling the traffic so they can make money. It's not because they're actually supporting some type of an agenda. If you really follow the trail,
the irony is that they're getting views on other people's content. Like, they're not making content. They're just
I love
anonymous.
those accounts. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like motivational
account.
speeches on TikTok.
Pardon?
It's like motivational speeches on TikTok. The account is full of people that give motivational speeches, but it's other people.
Yeah, or they lip sync to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. But yeah, you're right. It's not their content, and if I was you, I would take it as promotional marketing team working on your behalf.
Oh, I was tickled pink. I was not mad at them. I was like, this is delightful. And that's exactly what we were saying earlier, is that these weren't all people that agreed with me at all. And some of them agreed with some of what I said. Some of them agreed with none of it. Some of them agreed with all of it. But whatever I said did penetrate them in some way.
Sure.
And they're not going to be able to unlearn about the U.S. military and their impact on climate change.
Exactly.
They will always know that that's at least a possibility. And so that's, to me, a huge success. Like, I actually couldn't want anything more than to be on Libs of TikTok, which was exactly why I reached out. I mean, I didn't want to just like be a kiss ass and be like, oh my God, thank you so much for posting my video and making fun of me. But I was friendly, you know, and I would have been friendly. I didn't see it as like I saw we could have like a strategic alliance on a certain front.
Yeah. Well, I think you see it from a perspective of a comedian or a comic, and they're not, you know.
No, yeah. They did not have a sense of humor about me wanting to laugh with them. No.
Yeah, I don't think that's even the intention, you know, that was set originally behind the whole situation. So some people, yeah, they don't see it that way, and I feel like the way they take shelter in their whether it's an opinion or an agenda or some kind of a tribe that they feel like they belong to is by, of course, ridiculing the others, right? That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We set, you know, missionaries to go recruit for our camp by telling them how great it is and ridicule the others because, of course, both of those actions strengthen what we do and how right we are. And it's just kind of sad that we can't do what you're doing, which is, you know, look into something, and trust me, the search keyword Kyoto definitely rose based on that video, and thanks to Libs of TikTok,
yeah.
yeah. But my point is, why can't we just look at a piece of content and think, I might want to look into this, instead of having this urge to say, what a liberal, what a conservative, what a, you know, Neanderthal, you know, why does it have to be like that? And my gut feeling, you know, I'm not a psychologist, but is that we lost track of just being empathetic toward each other, you know. And you made a video that actually touches on that as well, like
I did, yeah.
about, you know, the solution from you know, Buddha and that belief, where, you know, if you just imagine your opponent more like a baby, whatever opponent we're talking about, you know, mainly in discourse, not necessarily in war, because that wouldn't work out very well. But you know, having a conversation with somebody that seems very charged with emotion and potential even hatred, if you just disarm yourself from all these emotions by, you know, deploying some empathy, some, you know, ownership over what's going to happen in this conversation and responsibility, maybe we can actually do something that is productive, instead of just bashing heads and wasting our time. Because at the end of the day, all we're doing is serving the people that are, you know, fueling this by continuing this divide and conquer BS.
Yeah. I actually just made a video that I haven't put out, kind of about how being able to affiliate yourself with a party is actually an opportunity to be thoughtless and to not have to educate yourself at all about issues, because you can just vote by party lines. You can just regurgitate party propaganda. So there is this advantage of party politics where you can feel political purely by being a mouthpiece for an agenda that you don't really understand. And I think that goes for both political parties equally.
Sure. No, it's by design, and it's comfortable that way because, like you said, you can take the lazy route and just you know, side with the whatever your parents told you to, or you know, people from high school that influenced you, or whatever group of people that got to you at the right time, and you decided that that's what you want to belong to, you know, whether it's science and democracy or God and conservatism, right? You can really dumb these two sides down to such a level that anybody can just, pick them and hang on to them, sometimes to dear life. Why?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a good reason, but it's evident that that's what we're doing. And
Yeah.
what you're doing, the reason I bothered, reaching out and trying to have a conversation with you about this specific thing is that we need more ways to induce and encourage conversation that doesn't immediately start with an attack or a debate that is just constantly me thinking about how to reply to what you just said, because I know you're wrong, because I know you're a crazy liberal or a dumb southerner or whatever stupid stereotype people want to use to arm themselves for the next round of conversations they're going to have. It's disarming. Watching your videos is something that I haven't experienced for a long time, which is yeah, sorry, I don't mean to make you feel embarrassed or anything. It's just I find it extremely disarming, and I find it useful, and it's really I want to say it's novel.
Oh, and I love that. I love the word novel because, nothing hurts me more than being like others. Yeah. So it's the greatest compliment you could give me. And also, it's interesting, this concept of disarmament, because we live in a world that you're so defensive that you're offensive. Right. Mm-hmm. And that is something that we see a lot with cancel culture. It's like you're so on edge, you're so defensive about anyone attacking you that you're really offensive. We're so offensive that we're not only like on our half of the court or whatever, we're like in the other team's goal, taking over. So I think that there's a human reaction that's happening by people where we're trying to create healthy boundaries maybe around treatment or how people are viewed. And I think that is obviously part of the medicine. Like, boundaries are an incredibly important thing in a personal relationship and in a societal one as well. We have moral conduct, we have code of ethics. I mean, that's a lot of what religion is attempting to do, is to have a common platform, a foundation of how we're supposed to treat each other. And so I think part of the issue around cancel culture, or the aggression that is the counter action of cancel culture, is that it's not necessarily prioritizing A, nuance, and B, respectful dialogue. So neither are respectfully having conversations. There is no intention to come together or to understand. And so I'm sure you've experienced this with like a lover or a parent. When your heart is closed, you can talk in circles until infinity and nothing will ever get resolved. So you have to start with an open heart, and opening your heart is really vulnerable and it's really scary, especially when that person's threatening. Like, if I were to say to like a misogynist troll who's like, I'm gonna rape you or something, I'm like, oh, I just want to open my heart to you, like, part of that is like, is that wise? Is that safe? But also, from a Buddhist perspective, that is the intention and that is the energy we need to be moving towards, is that anyone that's coming at you from such a place of obvious aggression is in deep pain.
Sure.
But you also can put yourself in some pretty dangerous situations being like, I'm just going to solve your pain, sir, So right. I think that's our current conundrum.
No, it's a really good way to put it. And, I've been looking into vulnerability for a while now. And it all started when I watched this TED Talk from Brene Brown. Have you ever heard of her?
Oh, of course. Yeah, she's great.
yeah, she's amazing. And, she really was one of the first experiences that helped put some sense into my man brain. And, was one of the first, I would say, experiences where I got one of those kicks in the side of the head that really, turned some light bulbs on, where um, I really grew up with a lot of nuances that limited my ability to be empathetic and come to a conversation with an open heart, even though I thought I was, with the Midas touch of, anything that has to do with understanding people and reading them and being open minded per se. But you can't really be open minded when your heart's closed, like
Right.
you said. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we're nurtured in this Western society to be that way already. We're not ready to be vulnerable because being vulnerable is dangerous. Like you said, if you come to every conversation with an open heart and somebody goes and just spills a bunch of toxic waste in there, it's going to cost you something.
Yeah.
So there's a balance, and you can't just be there all the time, getting hit by buses. Um, so it's it's something we all have to kind of do together, and also wean into it. And the reason I find this so interesting, specifically talking to you about it, is because I find that maybe the way to do it, if not one of the main ways to do it, is um, through art. You know,
Mm.
and what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, and that level of creativity, and I find it rising, recently around the world. And now, let's say, it's just for example, in film, what's the most watched Netflix show right now in
Oh,
the
right. The Squid
globe?
Games.
The Squid Game. And I just finished watching it recently because I was like, okay, what is this all about, right? You got to get with the times. And it's it's pretty amazing that on a relatable level they were able to encapsulate so many issues that we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
um, you know and a lot of it has to do with how human nature seems to manifest itself in different environments. you
Mm.
know so let's say, me and you in the wild, how would we behave if everything that we know as modern society wouldn't exist, is not the same as what it would be as we do here, because we seem to just nurture, and not nurture, but the word I'm looking for is, um, anyway, we prepare ourselves to behave that way by how society treats
Conditions us. Yeah. Our
conditions.
conditioning. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, the English is my second language, I gotta say, so I'm pretty cool. But
I
yeah.
always respect people who speak two languages because, in America, it's like I speak American, and
American.
it's
Yeah.
always humiliating to only speak one language.
You guys should be very, very disappointed in yourselves.
I
But
am.
anyway, yeah, we're conditioned to behave that way, and it does prey on our human nature, which is designed to follow certain paths and certain mazes, depending on what is presented in front of us. And if it's a piggy bank full of billions of dollars, then we're going to behave differently.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. So whatever we put in front of our eyes as the prize, um, our instincts are gonna behave accordingly. And what we have right now going on as a society, it's not leading us towards being empathetic and open-hearted when we go into a conversation. It's just not.
No, there's one of my favorite quotes is that it's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society.
I like that.
So
Who said that? Do
we,
you know?
it's a really good one.
Yeah,
We'll have
I'm
to
gonna
look it
look
up.
it up.
It'll give someone something to do. Look up that quote
Exactly.
because then now you have to memorize it in order to.
Yeah,
Some
quotes are a
philosopher.
big thing for me, so I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah,
Go
it's a
ahead,
really
though.
good one. But I think that in order to fit in to society, there is a sociopathic tendency of how we have structured and programmed ourselves. So people who fit in are somewhat psychopathic. If you, and I know I get into a lot of arguments with people around capitalism, But our current capitalist structure is obviously creating a huge discrepancy between extreme wealth and extreme poverty. And I think there is this common assumption that, this is some fluke, or this is a flaw that we can maneuver our way out of, if it's even seen as a problem at all. But extreme wealth and extreme poverty are completely intertwined and interdependent. And that is capitalism functioning at its core. So for us as human beings to accept what's happening in terms of, you have people spending millions of dollars flying up into space for 11 minutes. If you think about how many resources, all the precious metals, all the fuel that took, the time, the engineering, and then you have millions of children who die from diarrhea in a year. That is a psychopathic fact, and we live in that world. So I think that we have been truly desensitized and dehumanized in the best form of what it is to be human, which would be to be like conscious of our actions, because that is what differentiates us, is our consciousness, our awareness. And so we've been deleting that human ability that sets us apart in order to accept the sick society that we live in. So, wah wah.
Where's the happy ending?
Yeah, but that's why I dance, right? So you were saying, it's so overwhelming to take in that information that I think you can either travel down a road of like total nihilism, emotional nihilism, or if you really allow yourself to feel that pain, you could feel really suicidal. I know that in the depths of my feeling, that's where I go. It's like, I just want to drive off a cliff, I felt that many times. And I think that art helps us digest and helps us process the magnitude and intensity of the global pain that we are now aware of. I'm sure, you're very attuned to the fact that like we've never been in a global society before. We never had to worry about like Bengal tigers becoming extinct because we wouldn't have known they were. And so our awareness of the catastrophic and exponential sadness and suffering and the deterioration of the planet and the animals, it is too much to hold in one hand and in one heart and in one mind. And so I think art is like a filter. It's like a Instagram filter, right? For the harsh truth of existence, so we don't kill ourselves or become completely hopeless and nihilistic.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot to digest. And just as a overarching comment, I'd say that I'm not educated enough on macroeconomics or even history to say that I know that the capitalist system is broke, or if it's broke, although it seems to be somewhat broke. But that's just a not super based opinion of mine. It's something I need to learn more about, aka just the reason I'm talking to you now is because those wake-up calls are delivered in a way that is encouraging to go look for something instead of just shut it down and say, stupid liberals, or stupid whatever, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And that's really the core of the conversation, because we're in a really fucked up place right now, and it's the sensory input of everything that's bad is overwhelming. And I think one of the biggest, most important things that somebody can do right now is, one, curate information because of that overload, that information is coming from every flank, and two, be able to deliver it themselves or with the help of somebody in a way that is welcomed, whatever you want to call it, digestible, or something that's going to actually go through that big shield we're all walking around with, saying don't spit your whatever you're against, bullshit at me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard task to complete. And getting through that, I think, is the key to change. We look at all these small little things that we can do, but opening people's minds and hearts to having a conversation. And sometimes I say as a joke, making civil discourse cool again.
Yeah.
It would be a good start. I really think so.
And also, when you think about how to come up with the solutions, that is going to take imagination. That is going to take the childish, artistic side of scientists, of economists, of politicians, of people, of citizens. When you're a child, you actually have a really open perspective about what's possible because you're not limited by your assumptions in the same way that you are as an adult. And so in order for us to really restructure society, which is where we're at, I mean, we're in this whole reimagining and restructuring. Those two things have to come together, but imagination and art and play is part of that. Like, right. I don't think it's possible to just think our way out of this situation. We have to feel our way out as well. And that's why the dance is funny, because it's embodying something, and we're so disconnected from our bodies, right? So it's an opportunity to get back into the body, or just watch someone get into their bodies in a bizarro way.
Yeah, well, you gotta watch somebody do it before you get the balls to do it yourself. That's usually how it works for people. You know what I mean? So somebody has to be first, see how they flop, and then we can think about it.
And then you can give it the good old college try. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I like the way you think, because solution, when people say solutions, they always, go back to, I've already watched a million videos about these experts talk it out and hash it out, and they came up with the, answer. And, in order to maintain what we do, we have to go this way or X way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what the answer is, because if you look online, I think it's proven now that you can find the answer you want to find to every question you have.
Anything you want. The internet will prove you. You can prove that coffee is bad or good. It makes you go blind, or it improves your eyesight. Yeah.
Right. Which leads me to, the point that we're stuck in this box. If we keep looking for solutions that necessarily have already worked or did not work, depending on who you ask in the past, then we're going in a circle. And in order to really go somewhere novel, bringing up that concept again, is we'll have to jump out of that box. And maybe the best place to, find those interesting ideas and creative ideas is to tap back into our, childlike. Steve Jobs had, that he took pride in that he said, stay foolish. That specifically meant, I know he's an icon of capitalism, but he meant that in a creative way. That staying foolish is something we should allow ourselves to do. And, be able to think creatively and not be worried about what's going to happen if my idea sounds dumb. And again, I hate to use Silicon Valley, which is the bunker of capitalism, as an example, but they do something that we can all learn from, and of course we can learn something from everyone, and that is they take radical creativity to the max. They allow
that's true.
Stupid, crazy ideas to be verbalized and thought through, and give it a chance before you squash it, where a lot of our adult serious people with the suit and tie would many times just say, just don't even say another word, that sounds so dumb, but that mentality that people take to Burning Man per se is what allows for new things to come, because solutions from what we've already experienced and tried, I don't think we're gonna find the answer for the future of the human species there.
No, you're not going to solve the problem with the same mindset that created the problem. And
right.
I do have a personal theory, because I do think that part of our patriarchal, and I'm not saying that to insult you as a man, but we've lived in a patriarchy for over 2,000 years. And part of that has been about facts, right? And assuming that there is a universal way of seeing the world. And we have entered into a post-factual world. I mean, which is what you were articulating, how you can prove anything you want on the internet. So when you exist in a post-factual world, how do you make decisions is through your intuition, which is a more feminine aspect, traditionally feminine aspect of our psyches. Not that only women have intuition, but relying on your intuition and relying on gut feelings, relying on an esoteric or metaphysical guide in helping you to choose what to do. I do think that's where we have to be heading, is to connect deeper to our intuition and connect deeper to that part of you, your soul, your spirit, however you want to quantify or qualify that already knows. You know, it's like your higher self, your eternal soul beyond the ego knows where it came from and knows where it's going, right? But we can't conceptualize it. Our thinking monkey minds can't conceptualize these questions. But there is a deep knowing that we all have. And so I think that the future depends on a more spiritual understanding of who we are. And it's not like a religious and a dogmatic or organized propaganda kind of way. I'm picking up
what you're laying down.
Yeah, a genuine spiritual connection to source, you know, to your true self that's beyond your programming, beyond your conditioning, beyond your influence of society and culture. Right. So I think that is why, part of why when I, as a quote unquote feminist, I call myself a feminist, sure. But I'm not talking about feminism in this way of like dividing men and women. It's not interesting at all to me. But that
wouldn't be helpful.
No, but dismantling the patriarchy is what I am interested in, because the patriarchy is a mindset that has programmed us all, you know, and it's not serving us in any way. So I do think part of dismantling the patriarchy is a spiritual quest, an emotional one.
Sure. I don't disagree. I think that, you know, we generally, and I feel pretty confident speaking for men here, that we're taught to, you know, go logos over pathos. You know, we look for the logical explanation and try not to be swayed by emotional or spiritual explanations, for that sake. And it's limiting. There's no two ways about it. But at least in the perception that the way we understand it so far, is it creates stability. And you know, I for example, like stability a lot, because I don't like, you know, the unknown that much. And you can say I'm somewhat of a control freak. So, you know, when I was suffering with the PTSD, for example, that's the worst part for me, was lack of control or ability to predict what's going to happen. And that fear is real in many, many people. I mean, I want to say it's embedded in our DNA to not allow that to happen. So I think that change is going to be a painful change. But I do agree that we need to open the door to, first of all, our emotions in general. You know, you said that intuition is more of a trait that's associated with women in general, and it's not the only one, though. There's a lot more. One of them is, you know, being connected to your emotions, whether you want it or not, or whether it's too much or not. It seems to just be there. And that type of ability is something men lack and miss, and it's the whole good old story of El Bundy that doesn't even know what's going on in his relationship, right? That it's
Hand
funny
in his
because it's
pants,
true,
yeah.
right? And the reason we all relate to it is because that's how every modern home looks like. Maybe every home. um, it's just how it is, and we can do better, and we should do better. But approaching it in a way that's disarming, again, is, I think, the key. Because when people talk to each other about subjects that even have the keywords feminism or manlyhood or blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
they just, what they usually hear, and I'd be the first to admit that I used to hear that too, is attack, attack, attack. What you're doing
Mm-hmm.
is, you're trying to disqualify me as legitimate, and come up with something new that counts me out.
Mm.
It's some type of a risk that I'm taking, even conducting this conversation. So I'm just gonna shut it down with whatever phrases I already came up with a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it all comes back to vulnerability. So I feel like the key to moving forward is being able to, as a society, take on the courage to be vulnerable. And
Yeah.
God knows who's
And
gonna be willing to do that first. Looks like you,
and
maybe.
and surrender. And
Sure.
surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do like what you said about control. That was interesting because I would maybe argue that a lot of our fear and lack of control is around this
Right.
just innate fear of our mortality and our death. And
Sure.
so that is just a primal driving force that I think, coming to terms with our own death, again, going back to like that spiritual place. And the more comfortable you are with death, the more comfortable you are with risk.
Have you read Ernest Becker?
Denial of death. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So.
It's been a while. But I think he talked about how that's why farts are funny because they just remind us of our own death. And it's just so uncomfortable that we laugh
Right. And okay,
because they're so
so
absurd.
sure are. As a follow up to that book, have you looked into? By the way, I'm going to leave some links in the description below because it's a must book for resolving some of the issues we're talking about. But I just saw Lex Friedman. He was interviewing Sheldon Solomon. He wrote The Worm in the Core.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get a chance to read that?
No. Have you? Is it good?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's extremely good. And if you're already open to the idea that you're not going to heaven, then I would highly suggest digging into The Worm in the Core, because he takes Ernest Becker's work and turns it into something that I think I want to say more modern, but it's not necessarily more modern. I think it's just more widely digestible.
Cool. Yeah.
And
It's a great title.
yeah, and it's again, it leads to the same place. The driving force behind everything that we do all leads back to the fear of death.
Yeah.
The stories we create, and whether that's money or religion or heaven and hell and all that good stuff. Not that I know that any of them are true or not. Pretty sure money's not, but I'm not gonna.
Money's definitely not.
Yeah, but in the writings and the concepts that he's describing, both him and Becker, I think people can find some peace with not only their own mortality, that is just a natural part of their being. You made a video about that too, so I keep going back to that, which is lovely.
Yeah,
that it's not really yeah, it's not really good if it's not going to end.
Yeah.
And that's a concept that people, I think, have a hard time grasping, because I've had this debate multiple times actually, where people are like, no, I can live forever and I would be happy to. And I don't think that I necessarily change someone's mind about it ever, but I don't think that anyone ever would be able to exist for eternity and be satisfied with it without trying to gauge their eyes out.
Oh my
And
God, people aren't satisfied with their 40s, They're definitely not going to be satisfied with eternity. 100% no.
right, but that's a concept that's hard to grasp because maybe eternity is not as scary as death. One,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
maybe that's what, causes that bias where you
Oh,
just
100%. You're
you feel
just,
more comfortable.
the devil is less scary than the devil you don't.
Yeah, you said the best, right? So it'll be interesting to see if we promote a little bit more of that concept as far as being able to familiarize with it and make peace with it. Things could change, and Yuval Harari, he wrote *Sapiens*.
Oh, what a treasure of a human. Such a
Yeah,
fan. Yeah, love him. Mm-hmm.
yeah, same
Great
here.
book. All
Yeah,
800 pages of it. Definitely took a
yeah,
while.
yeah, definitely. It's heavy, but it's great stuff. And um, the reason I'm bringing him up is because he, explains in his ideas or theory or whatever you want to call it, that the story of God or religion is dying, or it's over, or maybe it's we're seeing the last of it, but it doesn't mean that we can exist without a story.
Yeah.
Now, whether I agree with him or not is not for me to say. Definitely not of his stature. He's a brilliant man, and one day I'll have to drag him over here to the podcast because I'm just gonna use my Israeli card. Like,
He's a gem. I highly recommend you figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll work on it. But the point is, we do need a story.
Yeah.
We can't just exist without one. And what that's gonna be is interesting. Whether we're gonna accidentally create it out of force of, some people push, some people shove, and we'll see what comes out of that. Or are we going to be more intentional? I don't know. Some smart people have more capability today than we had when we wrote, the ancient scriptures,
Yeah.
to make a story for us. And all of a sudden we might find ourselves in it without having much say in what's it going to be.
Yeah.
Because you could be already being fed that story on TikTok today and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought.
Yeah, it really is. But I mean, maybe part of it is learning that we write our own stories and that relying on our own internal wisdom and our own internal compass is really the healing that we need, rather than wanting the father figure to take care of us, learning to
Right.
mother and father the self.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
And it'll take a lot of breaking down walls, and hopefully it's not too painful and we don't have to go to the war for it.
Yeah, a lot of dosing mushrooms.
Yeah, that'd be such a good idea. They're already legalizing it here in Colorado, so
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
as soon as it's ready, we'll get some whatever type of form they come up with, like Tums or something. Tums psilocybin.
I made a video called Microdose about breakfast cereal that you would have in the morning.
Yeah, that would be pretty legit.
That wasn't for children.
No,
And
not for children.
And my kid, she kept wanting a bite, and I was like, "No, man." And
I haven't watched that one. I'll look it up.
it's a classic.
That's pretty hilarious. Yeah. But to your point, maybe there's some healing we can find in nature, like psilocybin. I think it's potentially. I made a whole podcast about a family member of mine who suffered from extreme depression and found help in esketamine, which is
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
Right, Spravato, or it's an extraction of ketamine.
Yeah.
And essentially the way he describes it is it's pretty fascinating. It's somewhat like a psychedelic.
Yeah.
It's not like like ketamine from the street. It's
Yeah, I
something
know. I've
completely
definitely
different.
been in a K-hole before.
Yeah. Right. So it's
It's
not
dark
that.
time. Yeah, no. I
Yeah. Tell
you're
me.
dosed with a professional, and there's an intention behind it. You're
Well,
not like
yeah,
at
yeah,
a
and
rave in the 90s.
exactly, and the way it's compounded is designed to achieve maximum results,
Right.
desired results, I should say.
Yeah.
And he says that with the caveat that it's not a permanent solution, and there's more work to do, and blah blah blah, all the disclaimers you can give. He felt like going from anhedonia, which is a state of not feeling anything, to kind of gaining his brain back, his life back over one session. It was the Kickstarter of what he needed to go from 10 years of being in bed and needing help to be moved around to being the person he was before he fell into that depression. And extremely interesting. And
Yeah.
since then I've been looking more and more into it, and I feel like we could definitely find some paths to reconnect with our emotions. All these blocked pathways that we just kind of sealed off for whatever reason, because somebody smacked us over the face when we were kids, or parents got divorced, or whatever type of pain you used as an excuse to, or as a catalyst, I would say, to block off your emotional channels, to regain some access to that, if not through conversation and videos of you dancing around and letting us know about it.
That's the global medicine right there that everybody needs.
Yeah, a little bit of laughter could really help too. Well, cool, Toni. I think you're onto something, and I think it's extremely interesting, and I think it's a beginning to something that maybe more people can jump on that wagon of being open to conversation, being open to looking at an idea that's not necessarily coming to attack them. It's not presented in a way that like most media platforms present it today, that just basically says you're either on our camp or we kill you.
Yeah.
And you do the opposite of that. For some reason, you're able to put something in a logical sense and order, but at the same time, deliver it in with a punch of humor and fun. And it's like I said, it really is novel and different. And comics are not a new invention, and nor do people talking about what's wrong with the world. But the way you do it, I gotta say, is different enough to say, okay, we're onto something. And I really hope you keep doing that in whatever forms you come up with.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I thank you very much for having me. And my only parting words are to not be afraid to be the fool, because if you're the fool, you're in on the joke.
It's true. Amen to that.